Hi, I'm Septime Webre, Artistic Director of Hong Kong Ballet, in conversation today with four really special artists, four principal dancers from really all around the world. Joining me today is Vitor Luiz, Brazilian longtime principal dancer of San Francisco Ballet, who's now entering a new chapter of his journey in the world of academia. Osiel Gouneo, originally from Cuba and also principal dancer now of the Bavarian Ballet in Munich. Welcome. Marcelo Gomes, also from Brazil, longtime principal dancer of American Ballet Theater, now an international superstar of the world, I guess. Welcome, Marcelo. And also Li Jiabo, originally from Shanghai, but a long-term principal dancer of the Hong Kong Ballet. Welcome, you guys. Today we're talking about men in ballet. The ballet world has long been associated with women. And in the 19th century, we saw a cult of the ballerina. And George Balanchine in mid-century, 20th century, had a very famous quote, "Ballet is woman." But in fact, we all know none of that is true. We know that men dance ballet. Real men wear tights. And so we're talking about all those issues associated with being a man in dance. Marcelo, I want to start with you. Can you talk about growing up in ballet in Brazil and what led you there? And I know that you came to the States and started training quite young. So maybe talk about those original roots, what they were like, and then how life changed when you came to the United States. And particularly, I think probably in some classes, you're like the only guy in class. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. I started dancing in Brazil. I was born in Manaus, which is a very small town in the Amazon. And then I moved to Rio when I was about 5 years old. I discovered ballet by accident, really, because my sister used to dance and I went to pick her up and I went inside of this building and they were doing this musical theater class. And I opened the door of this room and all these kids were dancing. And so I think I just said to the teacher, pretty much, I can do that. Famous quote from Chorus Line. And I just joined them and started dancing. And
was your sister any good, or did she quit?
She stopped dancing,
okay.
But she is very talented and very supportive as well. Brazil is a country, that's ruled by football and politics, and very little look at and money towards culture.
Sure.
So it's very hard to kind of have a career there when I was growing up. So I started dancing in Brazil, and I didn't have a lot of support. I was in school. It was tough to say that I was a dancer.
Sure.
Were
you bullied?
I was bullied, but I think that the support at home was the thing that was most significant for me. It was like a little bit of my shield.
You mean your family did
my
support
family,
you?
Yes.
All right, good.
And so I didn't see anything else.
Sure.
Beyond what they were giving.
Did your family, were they arts aware? Did they know that, all right, ballet can be a good career and this is a good path for my son? Or were they just supportive of you because they wanted you to be happy?
I don't think they knew right away per se, but I think that they saw me on stage and quickly saw that I had this passion for this. So they had to learn in a way, they had to know that was my passion, and they invested on it too. When I was 13, I got a scholarship to go to a school in America, in Florida, and so they put a lot of money towards getting me on a plane and sending me off to school. And so I was really fortunate to have that kind of background at home and that support and love.
How were you found? That was the Herod School.
Yes.
How were you discovered to go to, how did that come about? Through a competition, or did you apply?
So those days we had to make a videotape.
Oh, right. On Betamax.
Yes. VHS.
Yes.
And actually my partner from school, when we were 12, she put a video together and she sent it to the school and they accepted her, but they wanted to know who the boy was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
you were a non-competing partner.
That's right.
Wow.
So I auditioned. Not really an audition exactly. And then she went to the school, and I was a year younger than her. So, and then I went after.
And what happened to her?
She had a wonderful. She's still dancing in Leipzig, actually,
nice.
in Germany.
Yeah. Osiel, I know that you come from the Cuban school. That is very particular, really strong, one of the great schools in the world. Talk about how you got into it and what things were like, generally speaking, what the school was like, but also what did it do for you and your family, and what things were like during that era in Cuba.
Well, actually, I started dancing at the age of 9. It was like my mother's experiment.
Oh.
Yeah, basically, because I was doing like a lot of sport. I was doing football, baseball, karate, like all basics. Like, I don't know.
Were you in Havana or somewhere else?
Matanzas.
Matanzas.
I was born in Matanzas. Yeah,
Right.
Everything started there.
Yeah.
And at some point, we go to the art school to have some tests to see if I was good at something. And then
So your mom wanted you to,
my mom, yeah,
to audition.
She wanted me to try everything,
Sure,
like
sure.
music and plastics, arts, everything. And I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And then in the middle of the meeting with the director of the school, he said, you know, you can bring your boys also to dance, you know. And she was like, what do you think about this? I was like, don't ask me. I have no idea what
Sure.
this is. And she was like, let's just give it a try.
Huh.
And then they took me to the studio and they started doing little bit of stretches. And I was like, Mom, are you sure this is?
So you were 9 and they started to like measure your body and stuff?
Yes, basically. And then they saw my legs and my foot. They were like, he's flat. He's totally flat. And my mom was like, yes, I know.
She didn't know that was a good thing or bad thing.
Exactly. So like everything started there, and the first year was horrible because first of all, like my father wasn't very supportive about it. He was like, man, in tights, nah, he cannot do that. And
Yeah.
my mom was like, hey, you need to stop. Yeah, you need to support him and see how far he can go with this. Later on, let's say a couple of years later, a very good friend of mine from Cuba, he gave me this VHS video with Carlos Acosta, Jose Carreño, Rolando Sarabia. I was like, oh, this is something that I would like to do.
Sure.
Yeah. For me, it was all about being in small shirts with white socks, holding a bar, looking at the flies. Like,
Sure.
for 2 years, I was like, what am I doing here? And
Sure.
then he gave me this gift. It was like, you know, like sent from God. Like,
Yes.
take this.
Your inspiration.
Yes,
Yeah.
it changed my life. From that
Sure.
moment on, I stopped doing anything else. I was only watching ballet videos and doing researches. And at that very early age, I was 11.
Sure.
And I got very
You became a bunhead.
crazy about it.
Actually, the first time I saw you dance, you were 19, touring through the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And I remember seeing you in Female Garde,
Copelia,
and this grand jeté that was explosive, but also amazing pirouettes. I mean, you're just a natural turner. In class the day before yesterday, I think I saw you do 8 or 9, and on stage there's 6 or 7 every show. What was that early on? An early on gift? When did that show up?
You know, in Cuba we had this like this is a mistake, but we used to do. We took all these like rocker chairs and we took the bottom, which is like
The rocking chair, yeah.
yes. Then we were just turning on top of that.
On top of the turn, yeah, we've seen the Cubans do that.
Sometimes, and this is the very funny thing, is that sometimes when we didn't have that, we used to go to the kitchen at the school.
Sure.
And when they were cooking, we used to ask for the cow ribs. So
The cow ribs.
Yeah.
Oh, the ribs from a cow.
Yeah, so they had the same shape. So I was just hanging around the school with a bone on my back.
Oh my God. That is old school. That is crazy. Yeah, the Cubans can turn. You can kind of turn.
So,
Actually, it's interesting to see you. You're here in Hong Kong dancing with our big 40th anniversary gala performance, and you're dancing with Ako Kondo,
Yes.
beautiful ballerina, Japanese ballerina with Australian ballet, and seeing her in Diana Action at the end of her Fuertes, you're partnering her, and you're doing it a la cubana.
yeah.
With it's going, and so those girls can turn too. I mean, they can turn on their own,
Yes.
so alone. But Is there anything related in technique, in your opinion, to your own turning, to your ability to partner?
Actually, I like to feel my partner as I feel myself.
Sure.
So, in order to help her, I need to understand first my own body and my own experiences when it comes to turning or jumping, or how would I feel
Sure.
if somebody is lifting me or somebody is partnering me. So for her, it's very easy because she's a natural to her.
Sure.
So
Sure.
like it just comes.
Some years ago, I was running a big performance series in Washington, D.C., and had two former principal dancers from Ballet de Camagüey, Fidel Garcia and Laura Reyes. And I had them it was like 2,000 kids, and we did 6 shows, or 5 or 6 shows, 2,000 kids in the audience. And I had them do whip turns, and first I had them show how you partner a pirouette. 1, do 2, do 3. And show the audience how the man's hands are on the hip, how the woman just holds a position so strong and spots her head. And then I asked them to do as many turns from the same preparation as possible. The first show they did about 13. The second show they did 37. The 6th show from the same preparation they did 72 turns. It was flabbergasting. I mean, that was just showing off trick. It's not there for any other than just the remarkable nature of the human body that can accomplish something that they do.
Yeah.
But the technique is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah, interesting. Vitor, will you tell us a little bit about how you got into ballet in Brazil? Is your story like Marcelo's?
Yeah.
And has that path changed? The experience of being a male in ballet changed for you?
It's funny because Marcelo, it's almost like I'm copying his story, but with my own version.
Sure.
I also had a supporting family. It was in Petrópolis, which is a smaller city near Rio. And one day my dad seeing the house, so we were just dancing within the family. He's an artist as well. We had music every day, and we just danced. And I was the one really going for it. And he told me, "You should be a dancer." And I said, "Really? I didn't really know what that was." Next day, they kind of started going like, "Why don't you go take a ballet class? Why don't you?" So I went just to see what it was, right? And the next day they had a performance. So I could actually see the performing arts happening right away in live. And that's when I knew that was my path, right? That was my first moment. And I said, okay, so that's what we do.
But did it start with samba before that? Is that what you were?
Oh, I had capoeira.
Capoeira?
Capoeira was
of
my,
course.
it was my thing.
Yeah.
And then, so that was my first moment. But I was the only guy in the school. And then my aunt gave me a tape as well, but in this case it was Nureyev, and I'm like, I can do that. I cannot do that. I asked the teacher to perform the Corsair variation like this.
Yeah, of course. That famous solo that we all grew up with of Nureyev doing, and the video is like from the back of the house, back of the stage. Yeah, his big manege.
Right, and so very quickly I thought I was just like Nureyev. I had this huge ego until I saw, the hero of ballet, just a picture. I didn't have access to anything. I saw a picture, so I don't look like this. What's going on? So I started looking up, and then that's when I went to the school of Marcelo Gomes, which was the lowest school, and from there it was easier because I had not that I had bad training, or the contrary, I just had more competition with other men, and because for the first years I was only me, but. In the school in Petrópolis, because I had the supporting family, they taught me how to deal with my colleagues in the school. Just students that, I remember the first day there was some in a class, and somebody looked up at the window and saw me dancing, and I knew next day I would be in trouble in school. And sure enough, the next day people started pointing. It's like, oh, so you're dancing, huh? But I was prepared for that, so I just faced them and said, well, yeah, what's the problem? And I guess the capoeira helped because it's a martial art, so they didn't want to mess with me.
Sure.
but what made the breakthrough was that there was a sort of Olympics, we called it, and the students were responsible to make events so each flag had a color. We were the worst ones. I was never picked to any sports because I suck at all of them except dancing. But they'd make me dance Macarena in the opening. It was so I improvised Macarena, but of course I just didn't do the typical. I did some ballet, and then they kind of became a little star in to the school. No, so that was
A big fish.
big fish, yes, in a small pond. So my ponds kept
Getting bigger
getting
ponds.
bigger, and I still feel the same way. I still look up to these guys, and I go like, wow, I'm still having to kind of, you know, and so I'm fortunate that way. I think that.
So how did it go from the Macarena in the school auditorium
Yes.
to the amazing opera house in San Francisco all those years? Was that a big leap, or was it just like a one step at a time?
It was I had to make choices. So while I was in the law school, I had this amazing teacher. He was starting class in just for men that I didn't have the training for. His name is Pedro Kratzuk, and he really mentored me. And he came and said, "Listen, sit down, take a look." And then he showed me videos of Marcelo and then other, I think it was Pretty Lausanne or something. And then said, "Look, he's the same age as you." I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can make this." So I really worked hard, and that was the time where I did grow a lot as a dancer. And similarly to Marcelo, Fernando Oliveira, my good friend, she wants to go to Royal Ballet. They sent a tape. I was dancing with her, and we both got the scholarship. I didn't apply for it. It was just like they just simply called and said, yeah. They thought they were both applying. They just assumed. And from there, David Bentley hired me in Birmingham. It was my first job at 17. And that I couldn't speak much English. It was big life-changing. And until I came back to Brazil, continued my career for many years. I wanted to be a dancer there, but for the same reasons, you know, it's a beautiful company, beautiful people, and they really want to dance, but for external reasons, it was just hard to be there. And so I thought that San Francisco Ballet would be the place for me to continue my growth as an artist, because they do have a great rep,
Sure.
and they bring the best of the best
Sure.
choreographers, and as well as doing the heritage work.
Sure.
And here I am now passing along. I now work at UCI, which is the UC Irvine, University of California, Irvine. It's a Claire Trevor School of the Arts,
Sure.
the dance department. So,
Sure.
Professor Luiz, I
Well,
would
it's
never
great to have you,
imagine.
Professor.
Don't
Great
come
to have
down.
you.
Just a dancer, but yes, but you know.
Li Jiabo, I know that you grew up in Shanghai Ballet School, and there's a very codified system, a very old system, probably not unlike the Cuban Ballet School structurally. Tell us about your beginnings, and what was that like? I think it's probably very different than the experience that Marcelo and Vitor had.
My school is like owned by like person, not like owned by a government. So they start new. My first year is the school's first year. So
you went to a private ballet school,
kind of like private, yeah.
Not Shanghai Ballet.
But I live in the school, and they call Shanghai Far East Ballet School.
I see.
The name is, yeah. And then we live in the school and do ballet class, do some like normal study, and then do some rehearsal in the evening. But this just started school, so we heard, my family heard there's a ballet school, and they really forced me to. I mean, the school really wants me to like have a try.
Sure.
So I went in, and they just like stretched me and.
How old were you?
11.
And did they do like you had ballet training?
I have nothing. I don't do anything. I was like good with running and sports. They asked me to like do some stretching, like shaking my feet, like try to jump high, and then later they call my mom and say, "Oh, your son's very very talented for ballet. His score is 97. The full score is 100.
Wow.
He's the highest in the whole school.
Wow.
And then please come." And then my mom just worried that what if I not get success, and then I lost the time for studying, like, and then I will miss like university, and they tell my mom, "Don't worry, you have like normal lesson in the afternoon also.
Sure.
You will just be the normal kid as the outside kid." And then I went to school. I talk. I'm 97 to other colleagues. I mean, other students.
Sure.
They said, "Oh yeah," they call my mom and say the same thing.
That was a marketing
so
department.
7 of us,
Boy.
97.
Oh, sorry.
Everyone's like, because they really want boys. There's not much boys. There's 7 boys in the class.
And how many girls?
40 girls.
40 girls.
Yeah.
Oh.
But we're still going. The first day they just start to stretch us, they step on us, like some guys cry, but
Did you cry?
I didn't. I think I'm the lucky one because my mom used to do gymnastics, so she's kind of flexible. So I think I got a little bit from her. Yeah.
Nice.
And then when did I got inspiration? I think it's kind of same as Osiel. I got this variation called Gouneo.
Oh.
And Stonely.
With Cynthia Harvey.
Yes. Yeah. And I watched that. I remember like every single part of the DVD. Yeah.
Sure.
So then I started like very hard training.
So all of you were inspired by early videotapes and looking up to and being looking up to role models. I'd like to hear about what the style we dance on stage, the way we portray characters. So much of the repertoire is from the 19th century, and so much of it is where Prince. So many of the roles you're a prince. You embody elegance. The relationship with the ballerina is a very specific kind of one. We know there's a big challenge there, and the way we are on stage is so different from the way we are in life. Osiel, could you talk about that, like your transformation from who you are in your everyday life in Munich, or when you're back home visiting Matanzas, visiting your abuelita? What is the role of us being a prince on stage these days? What are we doing? What are we bringing to the world when we're showing these characters and telling these kinds of stories about swans and princes and when we're cads who betray Giselle?
Well, actually, I see as I feel lucky because I see as a high class job.
Yeah.
We are not only dancers, we are athletes, we are actors. So it's very demanding.
Sure.
And especially when I see it even a little bit tougher because everybody wants fame, or everybody wants to be known.
Sure.
But it carries like enormous weight, because everybody is watching you, everybody is looking at what you're doing. Some people are looking up to you as well. So it's a lot of responsibility,
sure.
Actually. It's things that I didn't ask for. I asked for very easy and, just passing through things. I like to push myself, but it's only like I see it from myself, the
sure.
things I've been trying to accomplish in life. Because first of all, trying to get my family forward, and second of all, because I love what I do, but it brings, especially from places where we come from, like Latin America and South America, stuff.
Yeah.
So you gotta really put it together to be able to help your people as well. So
sure.
It's not only about being the best you can be at what you do.
Sure.
It's also about trying to get your people forward.
Sure. Beautiful. Marcelo, one of the you come with a lot of attributes. Your technique's beautiful. You can do it all. But one of the special things I've been a fan of yours for years, so many years, is how you can be such an empathetic partner. The partnering skills are really there, but even more than that, we don't notice them because of the connection. Last night you danced at Two Swan Lake with Dorothée Gilbert, the French ballerina, and I just saw all of these nuances. It was really sophisticated because it was so nuanced. Talk about what it's like to partner a ballerina and how it's different from dancing a solo and what's more fulfilling, and also how do you layer so many details? Are they planned, or do you just go in there and just be present in the moment and that comes out? Like, what's it all about? How does the magic happen?
It's tough to say, really. I've always enjoyed partnering. I think that when I was little, I couldn't really lift. When I took classes with Laura Alonso when I was little, and she invited me to come to partnering class. And when I was very young, I didn't have the proper muscle actually to do shoulder sits or anything. So at a very early age, I knew what a promenade was. I knew how to partner. I knew how to do a pirouette and how to do, promenade with just one arm, which is very, very difficult when you don't have that kind of muscle control. So as I grew up, I became more aware of myself, and I had already that sensibility.
Sure.
And I couldn't wait to take it further. And so I think that's what I did. I just basked in it. I just put myself completely into the art of partnering a ballerina, and more so than actually my own technique by myself. I think it's a really tricky thing to teach. I don't think you either have it or not. I think you can teach partnering, but I don't know. I think that I love being in control, but I love to make my ballerinas shine as well. And I don't think of it as partnering. I do think of it as dancing.
Sure, you have to. Absolutely.
So then my back is responding to whatever she's doing. And as well, I'm alert at the same time. And when you are doing that, you become really can create such a pause in life. You know, you can create this moment that you can't recreate the next day. You have to kind of see what's going to happen again later. You know, it's a constant evolving thing.
So there's a certain amount of improvisation,
I think,
in the relationship aspects on stage.
I think you can build up to that.
Sure.
You know, I think that's something that you can definitely work towards and enjoy when you feel it.
You've had some really important partnerships where you've maybe partnered the ballerina for many years and you've got to know her. And in other situations, you might come in and have a very short time to prepare. Maybe a role that you know very well. The ballerina has a role that she also knows very well, but you come together and prepare very quickly. When that happens, do you have some special shortcuts? How do you build trust? And sometimes are you like, actually, I'll make it happen, but she's kind of a bitch. Or do you always try to disarm her with your Brazilian charm? Like, what's that about? What's it like?
I think communication in this case is the key.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the more you can talk to your partner about what it is that's not working. Sure. And what it is that is going to take for you to enter the stage, so you're on the same page. That is where you want to get to the root of, you know, what can I do for you and what is going to make us look the best. So if you have that kind of in mind, it's 99% guaranteed that you're going to have a good performance.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Actually, last night I saw you, Vitor, dance two beautiful contemporary pas de deux with 10 Yuan 10. And what a gorgeous ballerina, and really what great partnering, and those legs that just won't quit.
Yes.
Really.
I have to get out of
That's
the way.
great. It's like, oh my God, dodging. It's like leg dodging.
Yes.
But you're also a virtuoso in your own right. And had a really great career also in solo roles. We just heard from Marcelo about the primacy of partnering for him in some ways, how it was so important. Talk about keeping up men's technique, particularly you're now at a point where you're kind of leaving the stage and going into the studio to give to the other dancers. Over the course of a couple of decades of being a professional dancer, how did you keep up the men's technique? I mean, you just can't be a principal dancer without some tricks up your sleeve. Sure. And you got to turn out the variation. It's not just, there's lots of layers of being a male dancer, and men's technique is one of them. Talk about that and how your relationship with those steps changed over time. And then as you, hit 30 and you started to have the clock started to tick.
Yes.
How do you keep up?
Yeah, well, first, I'm 37 now, and it was like, okay, so I can keep dancing, or I should start looking for something else. And I think I did the right choice. But up to then, I could never turn like Osiel does, or be
Well,
handsome.
not very many people can.
Yes, I know, it's true. Or be tall and handsome, you know.
No, and people
Boy
can't
from
either.
Ipanema. So my qualities are almost average, basically. I was never but I had the understanding that I say, okay, so if I want to do solo, first there is a padre. That's the first thing. So I need to be good at partnering, and that was just the idea. Like I need to be good at this. But then, as I start doing it, I was like, okay, well, hold on. My role here is very different from what my expectation is. It's telling a story. I need to be able to communicate with my partner. There's some magic that needs to happen, and it's coming from this connection of the relationship between men and women, or men and men. Doesn't matter, like, because we can also partner with men. We did that on Frankenstein.
Sure.
And that was so interesting to me. And then I started to realize that that's what I really like to do as well as dancing. Before it was just like, okay, I want to do my solo way. And then I kind of, that was my favorite thing up to that moment. But I think the artistic aspect is the best. And also we know that ballet have changed and shifted the focus from the women to men, because thanks to Bershnikov, Nureyev, and all these
Sure.
amazing
Big stars.
that kind of brought dance
And
to what it is.
actually, the technique that has come out of Latin America over the last 20 to 30 years has also helped. You Latin guys can turn. And Cuba, Brazil, Argentina, there's been a lot of influx of Latin dancers.
True.
that have helped male Latin superstars who have elevated the technique, elevated the brand of men in ballet too.
Right, because that's what first of all, we didn't have a lot of, especially in Brazil. We have one big ballet company, so we became material to exportation.
Sure.
I think that's one of the reasons. Like, we have to go where the job is, right?
Sure.
So that was one of the things I kind of figured. But going back to that subject, I think one of the things that I kind of have pride on is that we are in a moment where still women have not a bit, but a gap in pay or equality. And ballet is one of these art forms, or one of these jobs per se, that there's not that much of a difference, and we actually there to support it, to make them look good. And
Sure.
so that there is this sense of me too, kind of moment.
Sure.
Because you do have to respect the ballerina. She is there, and she is the one that have to look good. So if Union 10 needs to be more this, I will make sure that this happens for her. And that's when you can build that relationship we're talking about. And I look up as well to Marcelo, or to great other partners that you kind of want to learn so much and be like them. I guess it's never ending thing, really.
I want to ask about being a guy in what is perceived to be a girl's world. We talked a little bit about childhood experiences. What's it like today? Jabba, when you tell people you're just random, you're at the supermarket, at the market, and someone says, what do you do? And you say, well, I'm a ballet dancer. Do you get funny reactions? Are people really impressed? Are they disinterested? Are they surprised? Do they ask you? One of the most common questions I get is, what do you call a male ballerina? You call it a ballerino.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure you all get that question from time to time.
Yeah.
All the time. That's probably the number one question.
It is.
What's the reaction of people?
I think it's slowly changed. 10 years ago, if I tell people I do ballet, I'm a ballet dancer, and some of my aunties, my mom's friend, they'll ask, oh, is it painful to go on point? And I'll tell them, guys don't go on point.
Sure.
Yeah. But now I think slowly changed. They say, oh, you do ballet. So they actually understand what ballet is. And in China, I think
Sure.
we have, because as the country still open up, and then
Sure.
lots of arts, everything just go in. But to myself in this company on stage, I think we're equal.
Sure.
I've been treated equal, so I'm very happy. And guys has like very important role in every ballet.
course.
Yeah.
Sure, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That's a new phenomenon in China. In Cuba, it's not so new. I mean, I've been to Cuba many times, and I'm Cuban American, and so I know that you're like rock stars in Cuba. You know, everyone wants to be a ballet dancer. Everyone knows who, not just Alicia Alonso was, but all of the stars who are dancing outside of Cuba. You know, Carlos Acosta is a superstar.
Yeah.
Bianca Valdez is a superstar. The first time I saw the Ballet Nacional de Cuba dance in Cuba, it was Joel Carreño's Siegfried premiere when he's 20, dancing with his cousin Aliede Carreño,
Yes.
who was already a prima ballerina. And after Aliede's Fuetes, which were, you know, 1, 2, triplet, 1, 2, triplet, and pull in for six turns, the audience stopped for about 7 minutes in an ovation. And poor little, 20-year-old Joel goes 5th position, tendu, and sits in 4th position to start his turns in 2nd for about a minute. And he's like, this is awkward. And he like Tom liaise to say, oh, my partner, like this. Finally, Aliede not moving a muscle, she walks off stage. So they're like rock stars.
Yeah.
Is it kind of disappointing not to be quite as big a star on the street outside of Cuba? You know, like when you tell people you're a ballet dancer, how do people react to it? Do they think it's a girl's world nowadays?
In my town, they used to, but I think as I grew up, you know, as I said before, like playing football and you know, doing kid stuff in the neighborhood with my colleagues and my friends. I don't know. The moment I started doing ballet, they took a little bit more serious. They actually, every time I had a show, they used to get in the bus with my mom, the rest of my family, and going to the show to watch.
Cool.
To watch me dance.
Sure.
So they see a little bit more seriously now. The last 10 years.
Sure. Marcelo, you as a relatively young principal dancer in New York at American Ballet Theater took a very brave step and came out as gay. And I still remember seeing, I was in a magazine store and seeing the Advocate magazine, the American gay journal, dominant gay journal at the time, and there's a big picture of you, and the headline was, Romeo is gay. This was probably 15 years ago, something like that. And that was brave of you, and I think no one really did that at that time. What effect did that have on your career at that time, and how are things different now?
It was quite shocking, actually, when all that happened. I felt like I needed to do this because I was actually a little bit sick of the question, do you have a girlfriend?
Oh.
And I would always kind of like go around it, you know, I don't have time for a relationship right now because I need to focus on my career. And then all the questions about my relationships ended after the magazine. Nobody was interested anymore.
The crickets, I could hear the crickets.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, I just, actually, I had a conversation with my mom when the magazine came out, and she was like, how do you feel how your fans are gonna think about this, you know? And I said, the audience that's coming to the theater, I hope to transport them into a different place when I'm playing Albrecht or Siegfried. I'm bringing my personality, but I'm portraying a role.
Sure.
You know,
Right.
and exactly, I'm acting, and hopefully I'm doing my job well, that people I can take them in that journey, you know, and I feel like nowadays I'm so happy that everybody with social media and everything being so open, that everybody has a platform to be who they are. And I think that it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing that it didn't start from me. You know, it started with people way beyond myself. And I'm so happy that I could speak out and be able to, and then that other people are, and we do have a duty of an example of inspiring young men and women. At the end of the day, you know, I feel like we're all just dancers.
Sure.
You know, whether you're from Cuba or Africa or Japan, I think that, or whether your race or your sexuality, or if you're a man and women, I think we're all just wanting to create art.
Sure.
And there's so much happening in the world today that is not nice.
Sure.
And so to have that 2 hours that you can come in the theater and kind of suspend your imagination for a little bit of time. And how is that going to, I think about nowadays when I step on stage for these traditional roles, you know, how is it the audience is going to relate to this now?
Sure.
You know, it's not about the princess being saved by a man
Sure.
anymore, you know.
Well, let's talk about that. What is it about? We dance a lot of different kind of repertoire. We dance beautiful 19th century classics, but all of us also dance contemporary repertoire where lots of different themes. I mean, I always think ballet's a language, like the English language, the Chinese language, the Spanish language. A language can be used in lots of different ways. We can have the same language can be Shakespeare or can be the most silly comics and everything in between. So the language it's pliable, it's flexible.
Absolutely.
The language is words that are filled with meaning when put together. Our language is these steps. When we're dancing classics from the 19th century that present an idealized world, what place do you all think? Do you approach it as us presenting, kind of suspending time for a moment and transporting audiences back? Or are we doing something that's more related to their real life? You mentioned, Osiel, about acting. We're acting, but to what end? What are we trying to accomplish? I guess that even gets to the notion of what's ballet about and what are we trying to do? Any thoughts?
I think the heritage is what we have, that heritage responsibility towards the audience, because to know who we are, we have to know where we came from. And
Sure.
I think that's what one of the reasons companies that interested me was, we're always the company that could do both.
Sure.
In that sense, when I'm dancing a role like Siegfried, I feel like that's it's a bit of you kind of have to take all the outside of the details of life, or kind of imagine that you're being back in that time frame, and that's you are kind of trying to portray the best, like just the feeling, the love feeling, and that pure love, and there is a lack of that in the world nowadays. Everything is very much dense, and there's like strong, and ballet is so uplifting. So I feel like somebody that comes to the audience and sees some man being gentle and courteous towards a woman, and that, or you have the true love when you see Romeo and Juliet kissing, and it's like that moment. It comes back. I'm sure they go home and they go like, "Wow, that's something." So my idea, at least as a dancers or artists, is to kind of make them feel something different and go home and maybe experience life in a different way.
Sure.
I think that's our responsibility.
Sure. It seems like we're presenting to the audience themselves some metaphor for who they can be.
Mm-hmm.
When you pirouette the way you do, you're not just entertaining them because you're doing something cool, but they're seeing what the human can do. Mm-hmm. And hopefully they can be inspired that the world can be this cool, this amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the thought. I was talking to Vitor the other day about it, that nowadays many of the young dancers, they focus a lot in what it calls technicality and
Shablam.
Yes, I call like tricks for kids.
Yeah.
But they sometimes don't focus their technique into a feeling.
Sure.
Let's say like you were talking about periods. Yeah, the period is not only turning for the sake of turning; it's turning to say something while you're doing it.
Sure.
Like how you start your turn, how you finish that, how you you go into the jump, how you finish that jump as well, like with the meaning of something, making audience feel like, oh, is he flying, or he's trying to throw an arrow, or to, like, you know, what is he trying to say?
Sure.
Like, this is the big question. This is what people, what young dancers have to ask themselves. Like, what do I want to say with this period? What is, or with this preparation? Their communication with a ballerina that I see, I look a lot up to, like these guys, and I see, for example, Marcelo, and I see like basically the supportive men on stage, like a titan on stage. You know, it's someone that you can see just standing there. You say, okay, he has a lot to say.
Sure. Yeah, we can respect that. That shows us that I think when you're dancing the way you do with Dorothée Gilbert, you're telling the audience that, guys, you can be a supportive partner this way and be sensitive and intuitive. And I think what all of you are doing is instructing the audience. When you're doing something really virtuosic that's just risky and flamboyantly amazing, you're telling them you can be amazing. You can be this superhuman. You just got to live life. You live your best life and be fully realized. Really quickly, if you had to go back to your 13-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 9-year-old self who is starting in ballet, what advice would you give him?
Follow wherever your heart is telling you. It might sound, like this tacky phrase, but that's what it is.
Okay.
It's like follow whatever your heart is telling you, but really, if you're going to do something, put 100% into it, because otherwise you're not going to get halfway.
Right on. Jiabo.
I'm gonna tell myself work hard on my core.
Work hard on your core. Yeah, and don't believe 97%. Vitor.
Your hair is gonna change a lot. You're gonna go through phases. You're gonna go from straight to curly to non. So just be cool with it.
Be cool with it. All right, cool. Last word is yours.
I would say enjoy it
Great.
as much as you can, because it's really there's a lot of dedication that goes into dance, and so I think that as a young dancer, I think that you focus so much sometimes on being better and being the best and trying things really hard and getting really frustrated with yourself, but know that you will eventually learn how to do these things, and that with age and with time they will come to you, you know. And I would also say work on your jumps.
Okay.
To myself, I would say, come on, jump a little bit more.
Well, we have a few minutes before class, so we're going to say thank you. That's a good place to end. It's an honor to have all you guys with us. Really an honor.
Thanks for having us.
I'm Septime Webre, Artistic Director of Hong Kong Ballet. See you at the ballet soon. Bye-bye.